Pilsner brewday on the Guten 70. So I've got a jacket this time, so hopefully that'll help with some ramping times. I'm gonna stick with this Helix and Bazooka setup for now, but I may change it in the very near future. Just 'cause I want to try and chill a batch soon, so I'm gonna block up the pump inlet with another filter. See how we go. So I'll turn my tap on. I'll get filling. Tap's closed, that's always good. Over here, I've got a Campton tablet, got a bit of lactic acid to adjust. And on this recipe, it turns out I didn't actually need any other water additions because it's a Pilsner. I'm actually over on a lot of stuff, which is probably not ideal. It's not going to be the crispest thing around, but it's for people at Christmas and they don't know what they're drinking, so they'll be fine. So that's my grain bill, nothing too crazy. I pre-milled all this last night. Got a bit of that. Some hops going on. I'm going to try out S189 yeast. So I'll put all the water treatment in and then I'll wait for it to get to strike temp. We're almost up to strike temp. I'm going to mash at 63, but I always pop it up a few degrees just because the grain will cool it down. One thing is, I do everything at 3000 watt, my ramping, my boiling, except for the mash, which I do at 1000 just to avoid temperature fluctuations. So once this gets up to temp, I'm just going to put a little bit in the cube for my Sparge water. So to calculate my Sparge water, I go straight off a Brewfather, and it just says that I've got, in this case, 7 litres too much. It'll start to overflow, go down those handle holes. So I take that out and I use it as my Sparge, nice and easy. Ding dong, let's go. I started with 61 litres for this recipe. I'm now down to 54, which in my head is 7. So I'll go seal that up, I'll put that aside, and then I'll start mashing in. Alright, we're all mashed in. Happy days. I've got this down at 1000 watt. Looks like I only dropped a degree and a bit, so I'll take that into account next time. Didn't drop as much as I thought. Maybe the grain was a bit warmer. So I'm going to go refill some CO2 cylinders because I'm out. So I'm going to leave this go for a bit and come back later. Oh, I'll start the recirculation as well before I go. I've just got back with my 2 gas cylinders, nice and full. While I was gone, I decided to pop the lid on this time, just to try keep a little bit of heat in. It looks like it's been mashing for, what did that be, 77 minutes? So it's not all bad. So have a little peek. So it didn't go up through the holes, so my recirculation's fine. So I'll raise the temp up for the mash out, and then I'll have to sparge. Malt pipe is up on the 3rd step. These are the little steps on the Guten, which is quite handy, especially when you've got a fair chunk of grain. So now, this water that I collected at the start, 7 or so litres, I'm just going to do a ghetto sparge and pour that in the top. Let it all run through. And I've set this to boil, 3000 watt. So hopefully it speeds up a little bit with the jacket. Just getting my boil additions ready. So I've got my hops here. I'm just going to use the whole packet. I have 10 grams of my yeast nutrient and I have 1 well flock, or as mango jacks call it, a delta flock. So just waiting for it to come up to a boil. Sparge is almost done. How are we looking? We're at 81 degrees. In there it's, oh yeah, it's getting through. Almost ready. I forgot to film the first hop edition because I was eating and running around, but right now we've got yeast nutrient well flock. Happy days. So apart from a 60-minute edition, that's all I put in this one. Keep it nice and light. So 15 more minutes and then into the cubes. So the jacket seems to help the boil a bit, which is nice. So I might have to adjust the equipment profile for a little bit more boil off. I don't know, we'll have to see. I had a pre-boil of 54. Now this boil's about to finish, so I'll just turn that off. I'll come over to the controller and I'll press stop. So now I'm just going to wait for all that to settle, wait for the convection currents to settle a bit, give it a whirlpool, and happy days. And it looks like I'm sitting just under 50 litres, so 4 and a bit litres boil off over an hour, which is alright. So see how all that stuff's moving? I'm going to wait for that to settle and then whirlpool, or else it'll just get stirred up again and it's kind of a waste of time. So this is only like 2 minutes later and it already looks to be clearing up a bit. As you can see, it's still got a lot of movement, so I'm going to wait till that stops. But I've poured off a little bit to let it cool down. Throw out the first bit, because first bit tells lies, as everybody knows. So the second bit, I'm just going to let cool down, put it in the hydrometer, and then good stuff. So I'm going to try to do this without dropping it, see how that ends up. And, whoa, a little bit steamy. You can see it's slowed down, it's not quite stopped, but I'm just going to whirlpool anyway. The helix should get rid of most of the stuff. So I'm going to whirlpool this way because of the direction that I put the helix and the bazooka. So you can see it stirs up all the gunk, which we want to form into a cone in the middle. Not the best whirlpool, but it'll do. The steam starts to burn. We'll let that sit for a little bit and then I'll start transferring. Right, so the cube's almost full. I'm starting to touch the top, so I'll back off the speed a little bit. As much as possible. Keep filling, keep filling. Alright, now we're right at the top. I'll just put that aside. So once that's off, so wiggle that down. The old top hat, top tip. Give this a pinch. Let's have them do it here. You might be able to see the liquid drop. And again, maybe not. Now, pull that off. Happy days. So, I'll just chuck that into the other cube. So it's ready. Now, don't need to push very hard because it is quite full until it reaches the very top. If it spills over, that's probably not a bad thing. Tighten that up. Start as you can. Happy days. Now don't forget to tip the cube on its side so the hot wort touches everything, including up inside the handle. And then start the next transfer. While the second cube's filling up, you can see that there's nothing really floating around anymore. Everything's settled and it's looking pretty good. So once it gets down a bit lower, hopefully there'll be a trub cone in the center, and mission success. So I've taken a hydrometer sample and it's about 104.2, which if I put it in to Brewer's Friend and adjust for temperature, I get 104.4, and I was aiming for 1045, so that's pretty good. I'm alright with that. I probably got a little bit extra volume, so I reckon, actually I did. I was meant to get like 44 litres and I got 49.8, which is massive. So efficiency wise, probably not so bad. So the transfer is going quite slow, so I'm going to put the mash paddle in to open up the spring, but you can see now that most of the trub and hops are in the centre. But even still, if I put that into the spring, gotta work my way into it. Oh jeez. Try it over here. This can be a little bit painful. Oh, there we go. And then, seen it in another video, just twist it open like that, and then it'll start transferring a little bit quicker. It's now time to fill the fermenter. So I've got my spunding valve, the opener, bit of lube, star sand, the tap I'm going to use. I've got them sitting at 10 degrees, so I'm going to start the ferment at 12. So that's my 2 cubes. And because I'm doing 2, I'll be using the 60 litre Famzilla all-rounder with that stuff so I can use the spunding valve. So I'll get all that set up and I'll start pouring. I've got 4 packs of S189 because healthy yeast makes good beer. So I'm going to stop that before it empties so I can still move this vessel into the fridge. So now I'll grab the second cube and do the same thing. Right, so the fermenter's full. I fill it right near the fridge because it's about 45 kilos or something now, and it just gets a little bit awkward. So and I put my temperature probe behind this. So there we go. So that's just a stubby cooler behind a bit of tape. And I grab my spunding valve, which is really awkward to do one-handed. So liquid's on the left, so gas on the right. Because you do not want beer coming through this. Chuck that in the door, and I will change this to 12 degrees. Alright, so that's my lager, or Pilsner. Good to go.